A Franco-Indonesian scientific expedition has explored a region of Papua New Guinea which is still largely unknown. The researchers ventured into one of the planet's richest areas of biodiversity, the Lengguru Mountains. For the scientists, the territory is like an open-air laboratory. It was formed 11 million years ago, when the Australian and Pacific tectonic plates collided. The limestone relief that arose from this raised uncrossable barriers and created worlds lost in deep valleys, as well as an enormous labyrinth of underground galleries. The animals and plants that lived there were trapped. To survive, they had no choice but to adapt very quickly to the new condition. Getting to the Lengguru Mountains isn't easy. It can only be done by waterway, thanks to a dhow. This makeshift boat has to go up rivers that are swelled by powerful tides. For the 50 Indonesian and European researchers taking part in the expedition, the voyage is an adventure in itself.
3.2.
Repeat.
3.2.
Jean-Pierre Briquet and Bernard Puyot, both hydrologists at the Research Institute for Development, guide the Indonesian boat thanks to a sound. The aim is to help the dhow to brave the currents, sometimes in epic conditions.
Left, left!
Left!
Left there!
All the way! Tell him, damn it!
Carry on all the way!
All the way! All the way!
Yes, he has to go left. Carry on, carry on. It's going to turn there. He left the hardest bit. He needs to go completely to the left.
We kept on telling him.
Yes, but he was too much in the middle. Too much in the middle.
The boat finally moors at one of the rare villages at the foot of the mountains. This is where the scientists set up their base camp. Soon the teams will leave for their research areas and return to the village between missions to securely store the field data. That's how you find great things. We were looking for the toilets and it went between us. Just arrived, Evi Arida, herpetologist at the Indonesian Science Institute, has found a rare specimen.
This one is one of the largest skinks. It's just amazing how they are different, and genetically speaking, there's plenty of room to study.
Finding an animal as astonishing as this when the expedition has only just landed is a pretty good sign. The following weeks seem promising. Before going out into the field, the teams check the equipment they'll need to make their research. Laurent Puyot, in charge of the expedition, takes an essential precaution. He demonstrates the drone. Using a machine that none of the villagers have ever seen has to have the agreement of the community.
Kamera yang akan ambil gambar. Oke, kita kasih naik. Tuh. Salam, woi. Ayo, ayo. Nanti lihat gambarnya. Ini kalau begini kasih naik saja. Tuh, pegang. Sudah. Turun.
In this isolated area, the expedition's success depends largely on how much trust there is between the scientists and the villagers. Every foreigner has to respect customs and ask for the agreement of the men of the village to go into the Lengguru Mountains.
Saya senang sekali kembali karena masih ingat kan waktu pertama kita datang di sini tahun 2010, pas saya ambil timpungan terakhir itu, saya lihat gunung di Lobo, saya nangis langsung. Jadi sepertinya ada, ya kan, tahu sendiri ada koneksi dengan lingkungan di sini. Benar gini itu. Gini.
Kami masyarakat Kampung Lobo harus menerima ini dengan senang hati dan merasa gembira. Beberapa orang yang mungkin bantu untuk menunjuk jalan ke sana, atau mungkin nanti di lautnya ada minta.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih banyak.
Ya.
The village agrees to open the way to the Lengguru Mountains. For these people, it is the center of the world and the cradle of all life. For the scientists, it is an Eden of biodiversity, unequaled on our planet, an exceptional place for the advance of knowledge. Starting the next day, the teams will spread out with their guides on their adventure. Near the village, in the coastal forest, Evia Rida, reptile and lizard specialist at the Indonesian Science Institute, is searching her area. Nothing is known about the lizards and monitor lizards which live here. Sparked by her first find at base camp, Evie hopes to capture other interesting specimens.
There are many whys in my head. Why are they endemic to this island? Why are they different in morphology? How do they diversify, and how do they come here? Dapat! Oi, oi, oi. Ha, ha, ha. Okay. What a beautiful specimen. And this lizard is kind of special in that, well, normally lizards will have 5 fingers on the front and the forelimbs, and 5 fingers on the hind limbs. This one, it has only 4 fingers on the front limbs, 5 fingers on the hind limbs. It's a specialty of a group of skinks. There's a lot of diversity. The evolutionary history is also complex.
An example of each group of lizards and skinks found in the field is sent to Jakarta, to the Indonesian Science Institute. Amir Hamidi is in charge of comparing the astonishing adaptation processes used by the animals under the pressure of their environment.
This is all specimen of skink that we collected from Lengguru, from the arboreal species, terrestrial species, and fossorial species. One species, the arboreal species, they have 5 fingers here. This is the perfect way to climb the trees. The second one is the species living on the ground. They have reduction number of the finger, 4 finger. And then the third one is the species which is the leg is getting smaller, and then the number of fingers also smaller, is 4 finger here. In the next future, we lost their legs to perfectly adapted living under the ground.
The scientists suspect that to escape their predators, the skinks take refuge more and more underground, like snakes. Their paws are less and less useful in this environment. This is what might explain the slow mutation of their morphology and the progressive loss of their limbs. The first observations are encouraging. They show that the Lengguru Mountains have developed some of the most spectacular stories in the theory of evolution. Another team leaves on its mission. It is going to explore the high isolated lakes. Bernard Pueyo and Jean-Pierre Briquet, the two hydrologists, are also the most senior members of the expedition. For 20 years, they have explored the most isolated parts of the planet together. They're accompanied by Laurent Pueyo, biologist and genetician, who has led several exploratory missions in this region of Papua New Guinea. According to aerial images, the high lakes of Lengguru are endorheic. That means they are not linked to the sea. They have developed over hundreds of millions of years in a closed environment. But what interests the researchers are the big variations in the level of the lakes. The water can rise or fall by scores of meters, flooding or drying out surrounding forests. The conditions in which the explorers have to advance are difficult. The temperature is around 35 degrees, and it's extremely humid. We'll reach the first lake today. They caught two little wild pigs by running them down. They're incredible, those guys. Those guys impress me. Hey, can you imagine them running on those stones? And then they catch two. That's the goro, My, it's pretty. Lead shot. Sad, really. Shoot a bird like that. This is something which should be protected. Before protecting it, the forest must be protected. This type of bird, this is its habitat. If the forest is cut down and secondary forest grows, they'll be gone. We don't know anything. Gura specimens, I don't want to make a mistake here, were last collected 90 or 100 years ago. This magnificent bird, endemic to the region, is nowadays severely threatened. A guide takes it back to camp to try and look after it. As for the wild pigs, there are too many in the forests of Lengguru and will serve as dinner in the evening. Some of the scientists' work is to educate the local population so they become, in the end, the best caretakers of the biodiversity of Lengguru. The first lake finally appears. The end of it can't be seen, and the level of the water is high. It's good to see Kamaka Lake.
It's like a ladder. And there's a good place to put a recorder.
Jadi danau itu tetap naik, ya kan?
Ini sekarang ini ada naik.
Ada naik.
Iya ada naik.
Tapi udah berapa lama? Udah beberapa puluhan tahun ada?
Itu makan tahun ini. Nanti baru ini kas turun apa ini dia pada ini kering lagi. Yang dulu kita masih kecil itu ada keringo sampai di Tanjung itu.
So he's saying that when he was little, he saw the lake and it was a lot lower. All that bay there was dry.
Kering itu nanti kayu besar-besar baru nanti ini ada naik lagi.
He says that when the level was lower, the trees could be seen outside it. Okay, we'll sit down then.
We'll sit down.
And we'll eat. How can the spectacular changes in the lake level be explained? To find out more about the natural phenomena here, the hydrologists decide to camp there for a few days.
The second canoe has a mess of wood.
To help their research, the guides offer 2 boats they usually use for fishing. I think you could make a...
I'm asking myself if we could fiddle that,
You could make a catamaran with them.
because I'm going to attach the sounder and the GPS on the bank. Like that, it's out of reach of the waves.
Yes, like that they'll connect. There's no...
No worries.
You know what you're going to do before you make your catamaran? You know how to paddle? You're a hydrologist at the IRD.
Yes.
You must know how to paddle generally. You get trained to. You can show us how, if it works.
Do I go there now? I've got my passport, everything. Driving license. Oh!
Don't lose your glasses. Watch out for your glasses. Just remember, forward is below on the right. Hydrologists on the water.
Not that simple.
With what they have to hand, Bernard Puyo and Jean-Pierre Briquet build the makeshift raft which will let them determine the bathymetrics of the lake to map it. Their aim is to cover the lake's surface over about 45 kilometers, and thanks to topographical surveying, find out the answer to why the lake has such big level changes.
We'll have perfect conditions for measuring today, Bernard. No wind, very calm water. That should give us the measurements we need with precision. That's good there. We're getting the data, the coordinates of each point, which we're taking as X, Y, as a northern latitude and longitude. And for each point, we'll also have the depth, which will let me make a map which shows the lake's profile. 44, 43. Well, it's a bit deeper than before. We've gained 2 meters, 44 meters, you see.
According to the data on the sound, the depth of the lake is almost constant, except at the foot of a cliff falling into the lake. In this precise spot, it's a lot deeper. Here, close to the steep sides, the explorers make their first discovery.
You see, you might say it's a bit like a face. Turn like that a bit more, to the left a bit. I wonder if there's something else. And that's like a cross above it, there you see. Like a fish above, look. The image above.
Up there, that's a crocodile there, and those are people. That's a man. The few archaeologists who have managed to study this kind of work in neighboring regions think that they were made around 3,000 years ago, when the island population migrated to more hostile regions to flee invading peoples from Australia. Most of these frescoes were made using a red pigment made from human blood, iron, and plant juices. Some abstract motifs are a mystery. They probably have spiritual or religious meanings. But the discovery of these wall paintings doesn't distract the scientists from their mission. Thanks to the bathymetric measurements, they can now unveil the secrets of the lake. There's the general shape of Kamika Lake, 10 kilometers long, 2 or 3 wide. The first measurements gave us 40 meters of depth and a perfectly flat lake. And then we had the surprise of finding that along the cliff edge where there were inscriptions, there was a deeper floor, up to 43 meters 40 centimeters over 20 meters of diameter. And typically, that means there's a little cave. And that could be one of the possible exits, you see, for the water from the lake. The hypothesis advanced by the researchers is that the hollow at the foot of the cliff plays the role of a natural drain. At present, the drain is blocked and the lake level is high. But in an earthquake, or more likely when the water pressure is too great after repeated rains, cracks appear and the block gives way. Water then plunges into underground networks. The lake empties quickly. After another earthquake, or when sediments have accumulated once more, the block reforms and makes the water rise again. The lake level fluctuates in a cycle. A first enigma has been partly resolved. But it's not just lakes which disappear into the underground networks. The long Lengguru River partly crosses the mountains, and it too loses itself in the depths of the earth. No one at present knows where its source is to be found. According to scientists, the subterranean part of the river is about 3 million years old, long enough for species to become adapted to this specific environment. Kararusman Lobaboza and Christophe Cochet, experts in aquatic fauna, leave to join a team of speleologists at the place where the river disappears beneath ground. Their mission is to see what living creatures people Lengguru.
You know, the speleologists have gone up to the cave. Okay, and according to them, there's a large chamber in water. We don't know what's in there.
You see, on that cave, there's no biological data.
Yes, it would be good to see what cavern space there is there, yes. There's potential for finding something there. How long? How long will it take us to get up there, really?
7 hours by canoe.
Okay, that makes 7 hours. 7.5 to 8 hours travel to get there. Okay, well, shall we go?
Let's go. The team has to go up 60 kilometers into the mountains following the river. They will explore the labyrinth of cavities where scientists think the Lengguru has its source. Rapids and waterfalls mean the voyage can't be finished in canoes. The explorers have no choice. They have to follow the river on foot up to the last village just below the caves.
Nah, kami memang akan masuk di daerah selama 10 hari saja, Pak. Setelah itu kami kembali. Kegiatan ilmiah ini adalah kerjasama antara pemerintah Indonesia dengan Eropa untuk mengidentifikasi apa yang hidup saja. Jadi kita memang masing-masing ini punya ahli, Pak. Punya spesialisasi, punya keahlian. Saya ahli ikan, nah teman saya ahli gua. Dia sudah biasa masuk di gua di seluruh dunia.
I've explained to them that our goal is to describe all of the cave's living creatures. That's important because we're going to compare them to all of the known species in the world. The villagers have understood the scientists' mission. They give them permission to enter the cave region and offer them shelter before they move on their way. We're leaving tomorrow at 7 o'clock. What are we hoping for?
What are we hoping for tomorrow? Tomorrow we're hoping to find lots of fish. Well, lots of species of animals.
In the cave.
In the cave, yes, of course.
The guides' teams relay each other. It's the turn of the new village to accompany the researchers over the last leg of the river which leads to the maze of caves.
We're here, apparently. Look. Oh, wow! Oh, no.
Oh no. Wow.
Oh, boy.
The speleologists have been here already for 6 days to scout it out and try to find the source of the Lengguru River. They're eager to be resupplied with food. Welcome to your home.
I'm amazed. You're well set up here.
Okay.
Hello, hello. Pappy? Hello, mate. Good Lord. Happy? You got what, a succession of basins there?
You got the river right there at 50 meters, the river which is falling under the blocks. That's where you have your work.
Ah, yeah. Right, let's go. How do we go?
Is there a trail there? No, you're on the left and you stay there. You see the wall at the left, you follow it and you get there in 50 meters. You'll hear the river, then you'll see the river and you carry on and on. You follow the river. With the help of the directions, Kader Usman Lobabauza and Christophe Cochet have just one aim: to collect specimens of every species present in the subterranean water so they can evaluate the biodiversity of this as yet unexplored aquatic environment.
There's a prawn, Kadar. Come and see. With a pink tail. Try in the basin, Kadar, over there. Above, another prawn? Take it, take it. This one's different. I'll go and take a look above, Kadar, okay? Ah, we got two. There's one a little bit redder than the other. That one, we can see them well there. The one on the other side isn't the same thing, eh? We didn't find fish, we found 3 prawns. That's not that bad because they've got a strange look all the same, these 2 prawns here, and they're different kinds. We'll see.
The fishing has been poor. The flow of the river is too strong for the researchers to stay for long. This is a disappointment for them. They're going to try in the river branches outside the cave.
Go in front. I'll go and see if this drains off.
The speleologists, however, are following up their underground exploration. They have to map the cave network and find the point where the river begins.
Under the blocks. Another concretion. Aggressive, eh? It goes off there. These are concretions which have been eaten away by bat urine and phosphates. These are Tournadres, which have been described in Cuba. Look at the pinnacles there too. This is biogenesis. This part of the cave is dug away by the biological activity of bacteria. The acid is supplied by bats, etc., and it causes these strange shapes here.
Bats play a major role in the modeling of underground cavities. Two phenomena are at work. The first is due to bat urine. It is spread in an aerosol form of highly corrosive acids which attack the roof and walls of the caves. According to the species, the bats can nest as individuals or a colony, which has a direct effect on the nature of the aerosols. Highly concentrated, these form a juice which digs circular holes on the ground. Scientists call these holes tinajita, found and described in Cuba, or large jars in English.
Here, it's bats' urine which makes holes, and hyperacidic aerosols, which perforate the rock.
The urine mixes with guano, the solid droppings of the bats. Then, a second phenomenon takes over, as the guano attracts a myriad of little organisms, crustaceans, insects, spiders, which decompose into minerals and notably phosphate. Washed by the floods of the river, the rock altered by the phosphate becomes malleable. Drops of water and the urine then can sculpt the vertical holes into such a density that they become a chain of peaks as sharp as knives.
Phew, it's hot here. Shirts off. We're caving in the open air. Look at the riverbed.
That's the Lengguru in flood.
It must spill over when it's in flood.
To find the source of the Lengguru, the team follows its old bed, now dry. Enormous blocks of stone attest to the violence of the river's floods. Oh, it's gushing.
There's a flow. You can see the river pouring into the blocks. Magnificent. Some of the flow is going underground.
Does it disappear or go into an archway? We'll go and see.
Yeah, we'll go and see, especially if that comes out somewhere. What's next?
Let's go.
Okay.
It's a headache for the speleologists. The river constantly appears and disappears in the limestone relief, hollow as a Swiss cheese.
We've found the underground Lengguru again. Okay, well, that seems to be a basin. A spillway of the Lengguru. Oh no, it goes below.
It goes under there.
Yes, that's the level of the river falls, which gets lost in these blocks here.
Take a look.
Let's take a look.
The milky colour of one of the Lengguru's branches, as well as a nasty smell of rotten eggs, announces the presence of sulphur. This arouses the curiosity of the speleologists.
Here you can clearly see the role of sulfuric gas, which corrodes the limestone and afterwards precipitates the gypsum firstly as needles, and beyond a certain level, in the form of gypsum blooms. So these crystals can have a special kind of organization, like here, along bacterial threads.
In this subterranean network, a specific ecosystem has come into place where the synthesis of light, usually necessary for the development of life, is replaced by the synthesis of chemicals. The water, with a high concentration of hydrogen sulfide, leaves strong doses of sulfur on the walls. This sulfur feeds minuscule bacteria, which gather in billions in the shape of gluey stalactites known as snotites. This microbial carpet is the first link in a food chain. Thus, many insects, attracted by this organic matter, come to stay in the cave. Phenomena of this type is rarely seen. It's been found in Mexico in a sulfurously toxic cave called Cueva de Villa Luz. The Lengguru Mountains show the scientists once more the interest and extent of their special nature. Back to the fish specialists. They're looking for a fish which they're particularly interested in, the rainbow fish. The origins of this little fish go back to the creation of the mountains. Studying its distribution could bring valuable information about the order of geological evolution of Lengguru.
Oh, hell. Go on. Okay.
It's not a permanent river.
Nope.
That's why there are no...
Yep. There are turtles.
Ah, turtles. Let's go.
Go on. Heck, they're fish anyway, but they're little things. Tiny, tiny. Yes, yes, cast it there. So. This one has 2 red stripes. It's really pretty. Did you see that?
It's not exactly red, it's orange.
It's orange, exactly. Nice, isn't it?
There are 2 distinct bars.
Yes, yes.
The tail is a bit violet. The cap has 2 marks.
Blue marks, like that.
And several gold marks.
It's really great because we've never seen that before. Never, never, never. The first time it's been seen. Even in publications, books, things like that, there's no such colouring being seen. It's really interesting. We'll see what that gives us on a genetic level and then define it all.
Mission accomplished for the researchers. They've just found 3 new species of rainbow fish, which have in common that they live together in the Lengguru River. This is a first. In general, just one species colonizes a watercourse.
Semuanya.
As the discovery of rainbow fish proves, the Lengguru Mountains are a factory for producing different species. The many valleys, each cut off from the other, make up so many little lost worlds in which living creatures, isolated from their relations for hundreds of thousands of years, have evolved separately. They are different genetically, no longer being able to reproduce with the mother population group, and have ended up as completely different new species. Lengguru is thus the amazing site of the birth of many species. Intrigued by the discoveries made by their colleagues, the entomologists take a turn in the caves of Lengguru. The site could be favorable for the presence of invertebrates with extreme adaptations.
Here we're in a zone where there's absolutely no data on underground fauna. There are little data from Bird's Head, as there was an expedition, and then we have some data for Papua and Central New Guinea. But here, we have no idea of what we'll find. And we'll be meeting 2 fauna, so it'll be very interesting to see what we discover.
Okay. Let's go. Chayo. Let's go to the cave.
Arno Fai, expert in underground fauna, is accompanied by Chayo Ramadi, specialist in spiders at the Indonesian Science Institute. Together, they advance into the entrails of the mountain. The darkness is total, and few nutrients reach this isolated environment. The species that live here face conditions of extreme rigor.
The specificity of underground groups is that they very often live in a somewhat insular system. The populations are isolated, fragmented, and therefore each population is likely to be microendemic species, meaning animals that live in very restricted areas. Here's a spider that preys on large grasshoppers. It's a spider of the genus Heteropoda, quite characteristic of this area. This is a young one, but it can reach the size of a hand. Let's see a bit further. This is a Rhaphidophoridae, a large grasshopper. I think that this is an adult. Again, very, very long antennae. And the eyes are reduced because it's troglophile, meaning it spends most of its time in the cave. So they begin to develop adaptations that are those of real cave dwellers, like the loss of eyes, loss of pigments. The loss of eyes is accompanied by an elongation of the appendages, often a lengthening of the antennas. So this is true for insects.
Arnold!
Huh?
You see?
What is this?
It's a whip spiders. The genus is Sarax.
Sarax.
This is
known from here?
I have no idea from this area. But I only know from Waigiu Islands in Raja Ampat and in Papua New Guinea. But in Papua New Guinea, it's completely brownish. So
maybe new species, no?
I'm sure.
Nice.
Nice. I will keep it. I have to be careful.
Don't lose it, huh?
Yeah.
The catch is good. These amblypogids, or whip spiders, are archaic animals of the spider class. The spiders and the scorpions seem to spring straight from prehistory and inspired some of the terrifying sequences in the films of Harry Potter. Fossil records show that the amblypogids were here 359 million years ago. They haven't changed much since then. Back in Jakarta, Chayo Ramadi can study the creature found in the Lengguru cave in the right conditions.
The species from Lengguru has 2 spines on the pedipalp claw. The body is larger, and also the antenna is longer, and the color of the body is much more dark compared to the 2 species from Manokwari and Waigiu. I confirm that the species from Lengguru is a new species, and it will contribute on the biodiversity as a whole in the Indonesia or in the Papua region.
Arno Fai has also found a creature worthy of attention in the caves of Lengguru. With the authorization of Indonesian scientists, he takes it back to the Natural History Museum of Munich for DNA analysis.
Here's the most remarkable species we found in terms of terrestrial invertebrates. It's a creature which was found in the deepest zones of the Jabuengara cave. It's a cockroach, a cave dweller, completely lacking in pigment, with very long legs, no eyes, just very long antennae. So this cockroach has adapted in an extreme way to underground life. This is remarkable to find this species. It's new. The only place in France which studies underground life is the Mouly laboratory, where there are breeding stations, especially for cave dwellers, which are placed in a real cave.
It's hard to observe cave-dwelling species in their natural environment. That's why the Mouly's laboratory decided to reproduce the climatic and environmental conditions needed to study them over a long period. The aim is to understand their evolutionary processes, for example, why they have lost their pigment or become blind. Arnaud Faye joins Olivier Guillaume, research engineer at the CNRS. His studies should offer additional information. They are about a curious amphibian found in the caves of Central Europe. It's a proteus. So here, these proteus are 19 years old. So they're only just adult. They become adult between 15 and 20 years old.
How long do they live then?
Well, we think between 80 and 100 years, but in fact the oldest ones we've raised reached 55 years.
Ah, they saw us arrive.
Yes, we'll try and push them by hand. They're a bit anxious. There we are. So now we've caught them, we'll take them to the experiment.
From living underground in these conditions, has it developed a particular strategy? Is its life cycle different? Is its metabolism different?
For the proteus, what happens is that it economizes as much as possible by not moving. Most of the time it's inactive against its rock, and activity can be measured in individuals of only 5 minutes a day. So during the rest of the day, it's saving itself up.
Ah, okay.
It can survive without feeding for several months, even several years. Reproduction's very rare, more or less one reproduction every 12 years for females. And so a longevity which is very marked.
It still has marks of eyes, though.
Yes. In fact, it develops functional eyes at hatching. So the ocular regression happens after hatching, but is very, very slow. So there are still traces at adulthood.
The eye disappears.
Then, after all, it's not at all functional. It's completely disconnected from the brain. In this species, we see that there is a growth in sensitivity, especially olfactive and mechanical. There's sensorial compensation for the loss of vision. In fact, it's a very good hunter in spite of all. It detects prey quite quickly and can direct itself without any problem, thanks to its other senses, despite the darkness.
So the fact we found modified organisms, cave-dwelling organisms, in such an unexplored and unknown area of the world as Papua New Guinea, this allows us to add to the structure of understanding we have of the underground world.
So effectively, in a general way, we can see evolutionary convergence of all cave-dwelling life forms. But really, we have very, very few species. So the more we discover, the better for us. We can validate our hypotheses and theories. The Lengguru Mountains have confirmed they are of major scientific interest. It really is the Eden of biodiversity that the researchers foresaw. They've gone into unexplored regions, observed unusual natural phenomena, and discovered mutating fauna, as well as several new species with extreme adaptations. Thanks to their research, new hypotheses have been made to complete our understanding of the evolution of the living world. The scientists are more than ever determined to continue their investigations and protect these mountains unique in our world.